Good evening, viewers and listeners of Concerned Citizens Media. Thank you again for joining me. I always appreciate your presence, and especially I enjoy reading your comments. So thank you for doing that. And today I have some news to share with you. February 2nd, 2022. Welcome back. So the main news for today is Ethiopia Human Right Commission report on the genocide carried out on Oromo Karrayyu leaders, Oromo Karrayyus. And if you remember at the time, the Ethiopian media, those media controlled by Prosperity Party, try to cover it up, try to hide the genocide carried out by well-organized and directed by the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed, and coordinated with the lower level at Oromia regional Oromia region administration. So it was well coordinated, carried out on this brutal assassination on Karrayyu Oromos, including their Abagadas or spiritual leaders. And so Fana, Walter, ABC, all government-friendly media attempted to blame Onek Sheni to cover up the crime. Now, thanks to this human rights organization, actually funded by Abiy Ahmed, now telling us the truth, what happened to these Karrayyu elders, Karrayyu Abagada leaders, spiritual leaders. Thanks to courageous witnesses and the attempt of Ethiopian Human Right Commission, now the blame is on the government. The government is a criminal. The genocide was carried out by the government, well orchestrated, organized, and brutally carried out by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed on the head, the top head, and directed the Oromia Regional Police Commission, the head of the Oromia region, Shimalis Abdisa, and all these Alamusime, all these head of the Oromia region authorities. So it was well coordinated, and now they are criminals. And I've been saying for a while, these Prosperity Party members, they are criminals for all the activities, all the criminal activities carried out in the last 3 years and before that. So let's listen to OMN Amharic discussion. Then I have also the one-page report from Ethiopia Human Rights Commission. Then I have other news and plus other videos. Thank you again for joining me. Let's listen.
እነሱ ያሉበት አካባቢ አባገዳዎች መንደር አለ። እንግዲህ ከቤተ መንግስት ጋር መመሳሰል ማለት ነው። የአባገዳዎች የተለየ ቢሆንም እዛ አካባቢ እንግዲህ ወደ ከረዩ ለፍንፍኔ ቀረብ ያለ መተሃራ አካባቢ ነው። የጸጥታ ኃይሎች፣ የመንግስት የጸጥታ ኃይሎች፣ የገዢው ፓርቲ የጸጥታ ኃይሎች፣ የብልጽግና የጸጥታ ኃይሎች አካባቢውን ሄደው ከከበቡ በኋላ ቢያንስ 39 ሰዎችን ከበው ከያዙ በኋላ ከነኛ ውስጥ 14 ሰዎችን ወደ ጫካ ወስደው ወዲያውኑ እንደረሸኗቸው ነው።
This is the mass grave carried out by Karrayyu Oromos.
16 ነበሩ። ከ16ቶቹ ሁለቱ አመልጠው 14ቶቹ ወዲያው
They were taken 16 to kill, but 2 escaped, luckily, and they give the witness account.
የአካባቢው ባለስልጣናት በቦታው ያሉ 14 ሰዎች ወዲያው ሲረሸኑ ሁለቱ ያመለጡ ሲሆን የተቀሩት ግን ወደ እስር ቤት ተወስደው
So 14 shot on the head and the back and killed, and the rest taken to the prison to escape, actually. And one is tortured at government prison and finally killed right there in prison.
የተቀሩት አባገዳዎች በቅርቡ ነበር ከእስር ቤት በከፍተኛ ግፊት የተለቀቁት። እንግዲህ የኢትዮጵያ ሰብአዊ መብት ኮሚሽን ጠቅላላ አድርጎ ሰፊ ሪፖርት አቅርቧል። የኢትዮጵያ ሰብአዊ መብት ኮሚሽን ራሱ ወደ ሪፖርቱን ለማግኘት እንደው ቀላል አልነበረም። እንዴት እንዳገኘም ያንን ደግሞ እንዲያገኝ እነኚህ የመንግስት ባለስልጣናት ወይ ደግሞ የብልጽግና ባለስልጣናት
So they're talking about how the Ethiopian Human Right Commission got the report and the evidence.
እየተመለከትኩ ነበርና ወደ ኋላ ተመልሼ ምናልባት ኢንሲደንቱን ለማስታወስ በለቱ ማሃዲ ያዘጋጅልናል አንድ
So he's going to talk about, he's going to show us the 3 media, government affiliated government media, talking about each the same thing reported, blaming Onek Shane.
የከረዩ አባገዳዎች በአሸባሪው ሸኔ ተገደሉ የሚል ነው። ፋናም በበኩሉ የከረዩ አባገዳ በሸኔ መገደላቸውን የኦሮሚያ ክልላዊ መንግስት ኮሚኒኬሽን ጽሕፈት ቤት ማስታወቁን
Fana Broadcasting Service, Walta, EBC, all these reported at the time, December 3rd, 2021.
የኢትዮጵያ ፕሬስ ኤጀንሲ በበኩሉ ያው የመንግስት ሚዲያዎች አንድ ፕሮፓጋንዳ ሲጎረጎርላቸው በተመሳሳይ ቃል እንደሚጠቀሙ በዚሁ ለማወቅ ይረዳችሁ ዘንድ የኢትዮጵያ ፕሬስ ኤጀንሲ በለሱ ዲሰምበር 3 2021 ማለት ነው የከረዩ አባገዳ በአሸባሪው ሸኔዎች መገደላቸውን የኦሮሚያ ክልል አስታወቀ የሚል ነገር ይዞ ወጥቷል። በተመሳሳይ መልኩ ዋልታ የከረዩ አባገዳዎች በአሸባሪው የሸኔ ቅጥረኛ ተገደሉ። ምናልባት አንድ ሁለት ቃላት ልዩነቶች አሉ። ማሃዲ ያቀርባቸዋል። እኚህ የምትመለከቷቸው በለቱ የቀረቡ የመንግስት ሚዲያዎች ዘገባዎች ናቸው። እንግዲህ በእንደዚህ አይነት ሁኔታ አመቱን ላለፉት 3 አመታት ሲዘገቡ የነበሩ ዘገባዎችን ለሰውም ምስክርነት እንዲሆን ብለን ነው
all of them saying the same thing because the government is feeding them and the government want to hide the crime.
የኢትዮጵያ ሰብአዊ መብቶች ድርጅት ይዞ የወጣውን ሪፖርት ትመለከትና እነዚህ የመንግስት ሚዲያዎች የዛለት ለዘገቡት ዘገባ እንኳን ይቅርታ አይጠይቁም። በእርግጥ ያውቃሉ መጀመሪያውኑ ይሄ ነገር ሲሰራ
apologize for this misleading cover-up report.
መንግስት አካላት መሆኑ ጠፍቷቸው አይደለም። በጣም የሚገርመው ይሄንን የሚልክባቸውና ይሄንን እንዲዘገብ የሚያደርገው አራርሳ መርዳሳ እና ኃይሉን ጨምሮ የኦሮሚያ ክልላዊ መንግስት የኮሚኒኬሽን ጽሕፈት ቤት የኦሮሚያ ፖሊስ ኮሚሽን አንድ ላይ ሆነው ነው ይሄንን ዘገባ የሚያሰሩት፣ አንድ ላይ ሆነው ነው ያስገደሉት፣ አንድ ላይ ሆነው ይሄንን ዘገባ ያሰራሉ። ይሄ የሟች ቤተሰቦችና
So he is saying they coordinated the brutal killing and also feeding false information, cover-up information, sending the misinformation to the media to cover their crime. They are the one killing, conducting the killing, coordinating the killing, again misleading the Ethiopians at home and abroad, plus the international community, by covering up their crimes.
አድርጎ የሚያሳይ ነገር ነው ያሳየው። አሁን እቺኛዋን ካየን በኋላ በራሱ መንግስት መስሪያ ቤት የቀረበውን ደግሞ የኮሚሽን ሪፖርት ማሃዲ ታሳይልናል። የኮሚሽኑ ሪፖርት ደግሞ በተቃራኒው በመንግስት የጸጥታ ኃይሎች 16 የሚሆኑ ሰዎች ተይዞ ከ16ቱ ሁለቱ አመልጦ 14ቱ እንዲንበረከቁ አንድ ላይ አንበርክኮ አስተይቷቸው አንድ ላይ በጅምላ እንደጨፈጨፋቸው ነው። ምናልባት ኤክስትራ ጁዲሻል ኪሊንግ ወይም ከህግ አግባብ ውጪ የተገደሉ ሰዎች ከህግ አግባብ ውጪ የተገደሉ
So he was saying like 16 were taken for assassination, 2 luckily escaped, 14 forced to lay down on their knees and to lay down on the ground and brutally killed, brutally assassinated by Oromo regional and Oromo regional security forces in coordination with Ararsa Mardasa, and he's a police commissioner named by activists at that time.
እጅግ በጣም የሚያሳዝን ነው። ሪፖርቱ ላይ የተነሱ አንዳንድ ነገሮችን በኋላ እመለስበታለሁ። በመነሻ ላይ ያህል ይሄን ብዬ ወደ አንተ ልመልስ ልጀን።
ጥሩ እንግዲህ ስለ መንግስት ሚዲያዎች ያነሳቸው ነገሮች አሉ። ይሄ የመንግስት ሚዲያዎች ለነገሩ የመንግስት ሚዲያዎች ናቸው ወይስ ናቸው ወይ ብለህ ጥያቄ እንድታነሳ ያደርጋል። ምክንያቱም የመንግስት ሳይሆኑ የፓርቲ ሚዲያዎች ናቸው። አሁን እዚህ ላይ እንደምታየው የኢትዮጵያ ብሮድካስቲንግ ኮርፖሬሽን የከረዩ አባገዳዎች በአሸባሪው ሸኔ ተገደሉ ይላል። ግን አሁን በመንግስት የምተዳደረው የኢትዮጵያ ሰብአዊ መብት ኮሚሽን የገደለው የመንግስት ታጣቂ ኃይል ነው፣ የመንግስት ፖሊስ ነው። በሰዎቹ ሲገደሉ አባገዳዎቹ ሲገደሉ በቦታው ከፍተኛ ባለስልጣናት ነበሩ ነው እያለ ያለው። እንግዲህ እነኚህ ፋና፣ ዋልታ፣ ኢትዮጵያ ፕሬስ ኤጀንሲ፣ የኦሮሚያ ኮሚኒኬሽንን ጨምሮ እነኚህ የመንግስት የተባሉ ሚዲያዎች ሁሉም በአንድ ሳምባ እንደሚተነፍሱ የአንድ ፓርቲ ልሳን መሆናቸውን ነው እንግዲህ የሚያሳየው። በተደጋጋሚ የኦሮሚያ
Okay, so that is the reality happening in Ethiopia. So government kills, government investigates, and government lie about the criminal conduct they are carrying out. So that is the reality we are facing in Ethiopia. Okay, let me make ready the next videos. And okay, there you go. Okay, so apologies, just a little bit.
President Kenyatta has.
Okay, here we go. Okay, it's ready for the next video. I will come back to it. So what is they're telling OMN? Thanks for the continuous reporting on the situation in Ethiopia. So the government authorities, the regional, especially the Oromo regional government authorities, they were there with the security forces to coordinate this killing, to coordinate this genocide against Karrayyu Oromos. Then they came back and they used the government media. He said it's not a government media, actually it's a Prosperity Party media. Fana, Walta, ABC, Ethiopia Press Agency, they used all to blame Shane. They know it, Shane didn't do this criminal conduct, but they want to cover their atrocities, the genocide they carried out on the Karrayyu Oromos. So that is the situation we are facing. That's why we call on for independent investigation for Hachalu Hundessa, for engineer Simanyo Bakala, who was the head of GERD project, who was he was killed while he was sitting in his car in Addis Ababa, the government or the government media blame he killed himself. So that's never been investigated independently. Also, the assassination of the military general Saare Mekonnen, plus the attorney general for Oromo political leaders, Abdul Jabbar Hussein, he was also assassinated, and no independent investigation carried out. That is the situation. The government kills. The government carried out brutal killing against citizens and use the media again to blame others for cover-up. So let me read what the Ethiopian Human Right Commission said in English. That's the discussion was in Amharic. It's one page. I will read it very quickly. Ethiopia Human Rights Commission, EHRC. Reasonable ground to believe Karrayyu Gada leaders' killings constitutes extrajudicial killing by security forces. The Ethiopia Human Rights Commission, EHRC, today released a report on the killing of the Karrayyu Gada Michele leaders on December 1 last year. The commission said that there is reasonable ground to believe that the killing of 14 members of the Gada leaders constitutes extrajudicial killing by security forces. It also urged that members of the security forces who committed the killings should be brought to justice, and that the victims and the families of the victims should be compensated. In its press briefing held on February 1, 2022, the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission stated that, based on the information it received, it launched an investigation on December 1 incident between December 16 and 21 of 2021. The report chronicled the event beginning from November 30, 2021, where 11 police officers were killed and at least 17 others were injured in an attack by an identified gunman in Haro Kersa Kabale, who were on their way back to Matahara town from work. The report continued. On December 1st, 2021, government security forces arrived at the seat of Karrayyu Abagadas and members of Gila in Tutit Kabale to search for the suspect and arrested 39 members of the Gada leadership. The report detailed that 16 of the members of the Karrayyu Michele Gada leaders who were arrested by security forces were taken to the woods, a place called Chabbi Anole, and 14 of them were shot dead. After listing the names of the 14 Gada leaders who were killed, the report mentioned that 2 people managed to escape into the bush. After a group of 16 people were taken to Chabbi Anole forest, they were told to lay in a row. Finally, they were told that the hour for their killing was approaching. But before they died, those who had money on them were asked to hand it over. At the same time, killers were assigned for each. They were given orders to execute them after 6 p.m. The report quoted eyewitnesses as saying, "They were shot on their heads and their backs. People who went to collect bodies were prevented by the police. The bodies were stranded for several hours and were partially eaten by wild animals." The report also stated that 23 people who went missing after the abduction of the Gada leaders were jailed in Oromo Special Force Camp, and the body of one of the detainees, Jilo Borrayu, was returned to his family. There were injuries on several parts of his body, the report said, quoting the family members of the deceased. The commission also noted that the remaining jailed members were released. The report identified that the Gada leaders were brutally murdered while they were under the custody of the government security forces. There is reasonable ground to believe that the killings are extrajudicial killing, the report read, adding, there is reasonable ground to believe that the death of one of the detainees while under custody and the lack of investigation surrounding his death amount to extrajudicial killing. Daniel Bakkala, PhD, the Commissioner General of the Ethiopian Human Right Commission, recalled the Commission's recommendation that a proper criminal investigation is carried out as soon as possible to ensure that the perpetrators of this heinous crime be held accountable. By clarifying the truth about the incident, it is necessary to restore peace and security in the community by ensuring justice and taking necessary action based on compensation for the victims, he said, thanks to at this standard. So that is very brutal, very criminal act conducted by the government security forces, and with the coordination of the head of Ethiopia administration, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. Nothing can be carried out of such magnitude without his knowledge. I don't believe that. This is 14 people plus one in the jail, 15, can be carried out without his knowledge. I don't believe that. He is the one organized and coordinated this brutal killing. So he is responsible, plus those in lower level, Ararsa Mardasa, Shimallis Abdisa, all these prosperity, Oromo prosperity regional authorities, plus his intelligence advisors, the Prime Minister intelligence advisor, all of them they know. So that's why I say the upcoming dialogue, reconciliation will not be successful. How you gonna do a healthy dialogue, discussion with these criminal entities, criminal, government authorities? These are criminals. Clearly, they have been doing this for the last 3 years without any accountability. They have taken prisoners from jail and assassinated them, conducted open assassination, applied shoot to kill policy. So it's the upcoming discussion. Dialogue is meaningless. And the West, the United States, European Union, they should stop advocating to conduct dialogue with this criminal group. They should call for justice, accountability. These people should be accounted for the crime they conducted. They are criminals. How you gonna advise people to the stakeholders to discuss any healthy discussion with this group? So it's meaningless. You can talk you can discuss for the sake of discussion, and it doesn't make any change, any meaningful outcome, as long as these criminals stay in power. The best thing is the transitional government for that country. That's the best thing. Remove these criminals and bring them to justice and come up with other stakeholders to create a government that can work for the whole Ethiopians. But as long as the Prosperity Party is there, whatever you discuss is meaningless. Whatever dialogue you want to conduct, meaningless, because these criminals are there, and as long as they are there, whatever you do, whatever best commission you created now, they say 400 people nominated and about 40 something selected. Then again, they're gonna cut down about to 14 commissioners or something like that. Yes, it is interesting, but it's meaningless at the end. As long as the Prosperity Party, as long as these criminal entities, criminal authorities stay in power in Ethiopia, there is no peace, there is no security, there is no justice in Ethiopia. That's why the also OLA or OLF release a press statement on this. Just a little bit, not too. It's several pages, but I don't read all them. But just a little bit. It says the new result of Abiy's national dialogue prolongs the Ethiopian civil war than end it. Instead of ending it, it will prolong the civil war in Ethiopia. To successfully conduct a national dialogue that can contribute to sustainability, easing the political malaise, racking the country at its core, the Oromo Liberation Front, Oromo Liberation Army believes that the following confidence-building measures and conditions are non-negotiable prerequisites. 1. Reaching a negotiated cessation of hostilities across the country. 2. Dealing with Eritrean influence and withdrawal its forces from Ethiopia. 3. Releasing all political prisoners across the country. 4. Opening unimpeded humanitarian corridors wherever it is needed. 5. Repealing the proclamation that designates OLA and the TPLF as terrorist organization. 6. An all-inclusive process that leads to the establishment of an independent commission acceptable to all stakeholders. Regrettably, none of these confidence-building measures have been met. Nothing met. So, what their conclusion? I just read the conclusion. I don't read the whole page. Their conclusion. We, therefore, this is the conclusion of OLA, OLF. We, therefore, remind the international community that when all is said and done, the net effect of the current national dialogue will be prolonging the Ethiopian civil war, not ending it. We further advise all stakeholders, national and international, not to cooperate with a national dialogue that we can tell from the outset is meant to prolong the Ethiopian civil war than end it. That is their conclusion. Just prolonging the civil war, and they are doing it, to facilitate the relationship with Western countries, especially the United States, so that they can get, money. They are desperate to get American dollar and the European money, so they can continue the civil war, to buy weapons, drones, tanks, whatever they want, and continue the civil war. That's why the OLF say this upcoming discussion, this upcoming dialogue is useless. Please, the Western countries, stop supporting it. That's what they're called. And as I say, victory to the Oromo and all oppressed people. OLF, OLA, High Command. So that is their conclusion. And also, as according to the report, this government is a criminal government. This is a criminal government, and the international community, United Nations, European Union, US, and others must call for justice instead of calling for fake discussion, fake dialogue, or to promote Prosperity Party agenda. So, okay, let's continue to other one here. United Nations caution prolonged drought, pushing families in Ethiopia to the brink. 3 consecutive failed rainy seasons have brought on severe drought in Ethiopia's lowland regions of Afar, Oromia, the southern nationalities and peoples, and the Somali region, drying up water wells, killing livestock and crops, and pushing hundreds of thousands of children and their families to the brink. The impact of the drought is devastating, said Gianfranco Ratiglano, UNICEF Ethiopia representative. Children and their families are struggling to survive due to loss of livelihoods and livestock, and it is projected that more than 6.8 million people will be in need of urgent humanitarian assistance by mid-March 2022. We are also witnessing major displacement out of affected area. The most severely impacted regions are the lowland area of southern and eastern Oromia and the Somali region. There is a significant lack of clean water, and the food security is deteriorating rapidly, leading to an increase in malnutrition cases. In drought-affected areas in Oromia and Somalia, around 225,000 malnourished children and over 100,000 pregnant and breastfeeding women need urgent nutrition support, said Ratigliano. Difficult. Some names are difficult to read. The lack of clean water is further exacerbated the situation for children and women. If children are forced to drink contaminated water, it puts them at risk to various diseases, including diarrhea, which is a major cause of deaths among children under 5. To date, in the drought-impacted areas in Oromia and the Somali regions, some 4.4 million people are currently facing critical water shortages. It is also projected that in 2022, an estimated 850,000 children will be severely malnourished across the 4 regions due to multiple causes, namely conflict, drought, and economic downturn. Children are also missing out on an education due to the drought. Over 155,000 children in the lowlands of Somalia and Oromia regions have dropped out of school so they can help fetch water, often traveling long distance, or look after other children while their caregivers try to find water for their families and cattle. Children who are out of school are at risk of exploitation or are being pushed into dangerous coping mechanisms. In response, UNICEF, in close coordination with the local authorities, is working tirelessly to provide life-saving assistance to those desperate in need. These include the rehabilitation of boreholes and water schemes, emergency water tracking, treatment of severely malnourished children, and providing emergency education and child protection support. UNICEF's drought response appeal for impacted areas in Ethiopia is US $31 million, in addition to the overall humanitarian appeal of US $351 million. This specific funding will target more than 2 million vulnerable people in Afar, Oromia, southern national and nationalities, and the Somali regions. Credit again for Addis Standard. So I appreciate Addis Standard for letting us know what is happening in Ethiopia. So that's the situation. That is happening under prosperity leadership. Nothing about prosperity, just the name. They try to cover the hunger and the drought in Oromia because they don't want to, the world to know. Now, everything is open, is in the media. You cannot hide it. We are living in 21st century. Nothing can be hidden. But they tried. Prosperity Party, they want to feed us only positive news, only prosperity. Because of that, people are suffering now in Oromia, in Afar, in Somalia, and other areas. Plus the civil war, plus their criminal conduct, the genocide they are conducting against their own people. These are the situation, and the upcoming dialogue will not resolve this. The best thing is the United States, European Union, and others, UN, they should call for the transitional government. Ethiopians are in the wrong hand. Prosperity Party is not the best solution to take out Ethiopia from crisis. This one is about 737 MAX again, Ethiopia. It might be considered a positive news for them. Ethiopian Airlines flight 737 MAX with passengers for the first time since deadly crash. Ethiopian Airlines flew passengers on a Boeing 737 MAX plane on Tuesday, but opinions are divided on its first flight using the model since a crash nearly 3 years ago forced regulators to ground the fleet globally. In March 2019, a flight to Nairobi crashed in a field 6 minutes after takeoff from Ethiopia's capital Addis Ababa, killing all 157 passengers and crew. The accident followed another incident 5 months earlier when the same model crashed in Indonesia, killing 189 people. The incident exposed a problem with the system on the plane, and the model was grounded worldwide, costing Boeing some $20 billion, and promoting court cases that exposed shortcomings with the certification process. Tuesday's demonstration flight had journalists, diplomats, and officials on board, and was initially scheduled to reach neighboring Kenya, but remained within Ethiopia due to poor weather, official on the board said. While airborne acting chief executive officer Isaias Waldemariam told reporters that commercial flights would resume after the demonstration. We made sure everything is in order. Now we are doing a demo flight, so to speak. It is after this that we are availing it to commercial aviation, said Isaias. Some relatives of those killed in the Ethiopian Airlines crash were angered by the decision to resume flying the 737 MAX. I will never fly in a MAX, and certainly if I find myself booked into a MAX, I will have to cancel that flight, said Tam Kabau, a Kenya lawyer who lost his 29-year-old brother George in the crash. A lawyer for victim of the Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 accused the airline of having failed families on many fronts. The families of those who lost loved ones in the crash are extremely disappointed with the lack of leadership at the airlines that has failed them in many ways, Robert Clifford of Clifford Law Office said in a statement to Reuters. He added that the status of the airline's own investigation into the crash remain unknown after nearly 3 years. Ethiopian Airlines said in a statement on January 22nd that the decision to resume flights came after intense recertification by multiple regulatory bodies. Ethiopia is among the last countries to return the 737 MAX to service. It is already flying in the United States, Europe, China, Australia, Japan, and Indonesia. We have taken enough time to monitor the design modification work and the more than 20 months of rigorous certification process. Our pilots, engineers, aircraft technicians, cabin crew are confident of the safety of the flight, the airline CEO Tawalde Gebramariam said in a December statement. Credit Reuters. So 737 is back on the air, and you make the decision. 6 killed in a failed coup in Guinea-Bissau. President sees link to Drought. So this is another coup attempt in West African country, now in Guinea-Bissau, but luckily they didn't succeed. At least 6 people were killed in a failed attempt to overthrow Guinea-Bissau's President Umaro Sissoco Embalo, state radio said on Wednesday, as residents of the capital cautiously returned to daily life. The dead in Tuesday's assault include 4 assailants and 2 members of the presidential guard, it is said. Embalo had announced on Tuesday night that the situation was under control after gunfire rang out for more than 5 hours near a government compound where he was holding a cabinet meeting. The West African country, which has a population of about 2 million, has witnessed 10 coups or attempted coups since independence from Portugal in 1974. Only one democratically elected president has completed a full term. West Africa has been hit by a string of military takeovers over the past 18 months, including 2 in Mali, 1 in Guinea, and 1 in Burkina Faso just last week, leading analysts to warn about coup contagion. The context appeared different in Guinea-Bissau. It remains unclear who was behind the attack, but Embalo suggested it was linked to the government's fights against drug trafficking rather than an army plan to seize power. It was not just a coup, it was an attempt to kill the president, the prime minister, and all the cabinet, he said on Tuesday's night. The attack was well prepared and organized and could also be related to people involved in drug trafficking, he said, without giving details. An impoverished country on the coast sandwiched between Guinea to the south and Senegal to the north. Guinea-Bissau is a major transit point for Latin American cocaine headed for Europe, contributing to its perpetual instability. It has been mired in a political deadlock and infighting, but does not have the same security concerns as Mali and Burkina Faso, where a spiraling Islamic insurgency has killed thousands and eroded faith in civilian government in recent years. The main road linking the city center of the capital Bissau to the airport remained closed on Wednesday morning since it goes past the presidential palace, but banks and the shops had reopened and people were venturing out, a Reuters reporter said. The image of my country has once again been tarnished throughout the world, complained Edison Gomez, a mechanic. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, Commission President Jean-Claude Cassi-Bro said in a post on Twitter that the army was responsible for the coup attempt. I welcome the failure of the military coup attempt in Guinea-Bissau, which was an attack on democracy and the people, he said. France ambassador to Guinea-Bissau, Terence Wills, visited Imbalo on Wednesday and congratulated him for the SAG frog he showed during the attack. Credit again, Reuters News Agency. This is U.S. Department statement on the death of one American in the hands of Israeli security forces. We continue to deeply concerned by the circumstances of the death of Mr. Omar Assad, a U.S. citizen who was found dead on January 12, 2022, after Israeli soldiers detained him in the West Bank. We note the public statement on the report of the Israeli Defense Force commander's investigation into the case and its findings, including the determination that the incident showed a clear lapse of moral judgment and a failure to protect the sanctity of any human life. The Israeli Defense Force public summary of the investigation further states that disciplinary action is being taken against the commander of the Netaz Yehuda battalion and other officers responsible for the unit involved in the incident, and that the military police criminal investigation division investigation of the case is ongoing. The United States expects a thorough criminal investigation and full accountability in the case, and we welcome receiving additional information on this effort as soon as possible. We continue to discuss this troubling incident with the Israeli government. We convey again our deepest sympathies and condolences to the family of Mr. Assad the Department of State has no higher priority than the safety and security of U.S. citizens abroad. Okay, this is the last one. This is the last one. This is for your knowledge. This is not politics. And placenta and human culture. What people are thinking of placenta. 1. Nepalese think of the placenta as a friend of the baby. The Orang Asli and the Malay population in Malay Peninsula regard a placenta as the baby's older sibling. They consider a placenta as the baby's older sibling. That is interesting. Native Hawaiians believe that the placenta is a part of the baby and traditionally plant it with a tree that can then grow alongside the child. This is very interesting. So, in another word, they are promoting, the environmentalist agenda, planting a tree, which is good. 3. In Indonesia, Javanese believe that the placenta has a spirit and needs to be buried outside the family house. Lastly, for today, some Malays would bury the baby's placenta with a pencil if it is a boy, or a needle and a thread if it is a girl. That's interesting. That is interesting. Burying a placenta with a pencil if it's a boy, and with a needle and a thread if it's a girl. So please comment if you know others' cultural practices with the placenta. What's the Ethiopians thinking? What is the practice in Ethiopia? I know they bury the placenta, but if you know something, let me know. What about others? Eritreans, Tigrayans, and Oromos, what they think of the placenta, or whichever country you are from. Let me know what the people think about the placenta. So the one I read I got it from wikipedia.org. Thank you. Let's finish up today's presentation with short videos. There you go. The first one is Kenya's president, Kenya's TV, talking about Kenyatta. He's concerned about Ethiopia. Just 1 minute video, what he say. There you go.
As tonight appealed to warring parties in the ongoing conflict in Ethiopia to cease fire. In a statement this evening, the president said the ongoing conflict continues to rob and deprive the people of Ethiopia, quote, the dignity and honor inherently interwoven in the culture and civilization of this great nation, close quote. President Kenyatta says that Kenya agrees with the United Nations Security Council Secretary General Antonio Guterres in calling for a ceasefire and paving the way for meaningful negotiations. He added that a promise of a peaceful, secure, and stable Ethiopia will only be realized if all aggrieved parties in Ethiopia engage in an all-inclusive national dialogue conducted in the spirit of promise and compromise and accommodation. The ongoing conflict started in November 2020 as the government ordered a military offensive against the Tigrayan People's Liberation Front, or the TPLF.
You've always been responsible with your car, but you're stopping the same
Okay, this is an advertisement.
Now with Karma Drive.
There we go.
Gentleman from Florida is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the gentlewoman.
Let's hear the
from
Republican
Georgia.
side
Woman's recognized.
about
Thank
one
you,
bill.
Madam Speaker. I rise in opposition to another bill that puts China first and America last.
China
Instead
first,
of
America
focusing
last.
on a bill that's almost 3,000 pages, worth 325 estimated billion in spending, estimated, that doesn't really help America. It's going to give out $8 billion to the UN Climate Fund and mentions coral reefs 383 times. What Congress should be doing is working on a budget that will fund our government, since we're running out of money in just a few weeks. What Congress should be doing is doing something about the fentanyl that's coming from China that's killing young people, and it's now the #1 cause of death in Americans from 18 to 45, not COVID-19. What Congress should be doing is funding a wall, building a wall, protecting our border, and deporting illegal aliens who are stealing American jobs. That's what we should be doing to help the American worker. But instead, we're debating a bill that's going to fund climate change, the Green New Deal, and help the coral reefs. This isn't what Americans care about. We all should be voting no and doing a better job.
This protest took place in Australia's capital, Canberra, outside the National Press Club. The message was that journalists are somehow involved in a conspiracy to spread misinformation about COVID-19 vaccines and government mandates.
This is not just about the vaccines. That's their defense. That's the way that they're actually trying to silence us.
Anti-vaccination movements are nothing new, but they were traditionally regarded as fringe organizations with concerns about the safety of vaccines. COVID-19 has changed that and muddied the message. There are now a wide range of rallying cries at protests, like wanting to win countries back from so-called dictatorial governments. There are conspiracy theories and messages of hate, violence, and even anarchy. Far-right groups and their political allies are seeing an opportunity to spread their messages and are increasingly showing up to, and in some cases, organizing rallies.
They want to vaccinate us by force. Now they even want to vaccinate our children, who do not need such experimental vaccines.
In Canada, thousands led by truck drivers gathered in Ottawa to protest vaccine mandates. Some of the organizers are well-known far-right activists, including one who says the vaccine was created to depopulate the white race, and another who spreads Islamophobia. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who on Monday announced he had tested positive for COVID-19, says protesters are being misled.
To the politicians exploiting people's fears, I ask you to think long and hard about the consequences of your actions.
Most protests around the world have been peaceful, attended by people who have genuine concerns about vaccines. But their message is increasingly being lost in a misinformation campaign being waged by others who have ulterior motives. Wayne Hay, Al Jazeera.
Okay, thank you, Al Jazeera. So that's, a little bit update for today. And this controversy over COVID-19 vaccine is a very, very tough one to convince the people. Actually, the scientists did what they're supposed to do. They checked out, researched, and got approval from CDC, FDA, whatever, and they are safe. They are safe for pregnant women. They are safe even on children. So I don't know why all this argument and fighting back. And if you don't have the best thing to deal with COVID-19, why you argue against it? We all want to be safe. And the scientists, thanks to the scientists, they created something safe. Even you don't feel it when you take the shot. So I don't understand this whole argument against it and creating misinformation like This vaccine is against the white population, or forcing us, to surrender, or maybe doing experiment on our children. These are all fake. All fake. It's already investigated. Research is completed. It is safe to take it. So I don't take these arguments seriously. So to conclude, I repeat my call on United States of America, European Union, United Nations, African Union, instead of calling for this fake dialogue for reconciliation, please call for transitional government in Ethiopia. Don't force people to sit down with these criminals, these genocidal groups, parties in Ethiopia. It is clear that they use the media and to cover up their crimes, and you are forcing people to sit with the criminals, and these criminals will not take out the country out of the wood. I don't know what this dialogue, the purpose of this dialogue. As long as you keep Prosperity Party in power, it is meaningless. It is meaningless unless you maybe create something to share the power, take away their majority so they will not make a decision on war, a decision on killing Oromos, Amaras, whatever the other tribes. They will not take a major decision on an international level. They are very weak, failed leadership. That's why concerned citizens media repeatedly call even on the Prime Minister to resign. He is a criminal, and he is leading a criminal group, and his crime repeatedly exposed by his own commission. By the commission he is paying the salary, thanks to their courageous, outstanding work on this one. So that is just reality. Calling stakeholders to participate in this dialogue is meaningless unless you create a mechanism to weaken the Prosperity Party, take them out, and put them in justice. Thank you again. I will be back with other news and updates. So long, and be safe.